Hey guys, it's Thunderbug here, bringing my WPF Attack Division draft breakdown for Season 12 here. So we got the 15th pick, which meant we didn't get to play with the fun things like Libero, No U-Turn Cinderace, or Kieran Black without speed boosting. So from there, then I made two plans. I was either going to rebuild a team I made a couple seasons ago in a different league around Galarian and Darmanitan, or I was going to build a team around Mega Pinsir. So first and second pick, I knew what I was going to do because they both fit in both plans, and I figured they might get to me, and of course they both did. First pick was Landorus T. It's Landorus. It's the same on span since Gen 6, by which I mean it does pretty much whatever you need it to do. It can be defensive, it can be offensive, hazards, removal, choice scarf, choice band, setup. It does so much. It's so good, and always glad to use Landorus because there's so many fun things you can do with it. Next up was Latios. I really like Latios. I know some people don't really like Latios because it is obviously a much weaker Latios. But at the same time, Latios was gone before I got to my first pick in the first round. And it still hits a good speed tier. It's got decent bulk, some recovery, various utility moves. And in general, it's just a mon I like using, and it fits together with the mons I want to build around. And that brings me to my round three, which was Regieleki. This is another mon I want to use for a while. 200 speed is just absurd. You can outspeed quite literally everything you want to. You're always going to have the fastest one on the field, outside of very specific setup sweepers and like ridiculous things like Scarf Dragapult. And it can be actually surprisingly powerful thanks to Transistor and boosting with things like Magnet or Life Orb and whatnot. And then, of course, the Rapid Spin is always nice to have. Screen support for setup sweeping is always great too. Of course, the main downside being it can't touch ground types whatsoever, which is where things like ground immunities like Landorus and Latios come into play because they can, or again, ground immune, so they can switch into the ground types and threaten them out and just cause damage and slowly wear down teams over time and maybe get the grounds down. And once the grounds go down, Regieleki can just go wild. And speaking of ways to help deal with grounds as well, that brought us to our fourth pick, which was Blastoise. I've been on a bit of a Blastoise kick recently. Rapid Spin, always a big bonus, especially again when you're going to build around either Darm or Pinsir. And then the new toys I got in Gen 8 with Flip Turn and Shell Smash have really elevated Blastoise game. Flip Turn makes it an incredible pivot into certain things, and you can force it out like Flip Turn on your grass types, and you can go into your dangerous offensive sweepers or attackers and breakers, and or you can Shell Smash and just try to sweep yourself with it. Overall, kind of straightforward. It's spin, there's smash, there's flip turn. It's kind of simple, straightforward, really good. Is kind of sometimes still lacking in speed or power, even with shell smash, but hey, that's what you get with the pretty balanced set one. And then, of course, from there we went to Galarian Weezing. For those who've never heard me talk about Galarian Weezing, I apologize in advance. I'm going to ramble a little bit. I think Galarian Weezing is probably one of the best mid-tier mons in the entire format. I think Neutralizing Gas is an incredible ability. The ability to just negate every ability in the game is just completely insane. You can do things like basically stop Regenerator mons from regenerating, or make things like Metacham not able to beat you 1v1. Just do just all sorts of ridiculous nonsense you can do with Neutralizing Gas. And that's not even the best part, because it's got two other really good abilities. Levitate is always great because it's a poison type, so get rid of your ground weakness, make it in fact an immunity. Big two for Regieleki. Float above hazards like spikes, so you can use that in order to defog the spikes away. Set toxic spikes of your own. Burn things with Will-O-Wisp, spread toxics. And then if you really want to, in a couple games, you can even run Misty Surge to help with dragon matchups. It's not the best ability, especially compared to the other two, but it's something you can run course, though it is a fairy that's a bit weak in the special side, which is kind of awkward. We deal things like have Draco Meteor and then Flash Cannon for coverage, but you can work around it with good team support, which I think I kind of did with this team as well, because I did plan at some point in this draft to also pick Chansey, because I think Chansey pairs really well with Galarian Weezing, because again, special wall, plus Chansey's weakness is fighting types, is quad resisted by Galarian Weezing, and Chansey can heal up with Wish, make that an obnoxious combo to deal with, but I could probably send in Chansey to late draft because nobody really likes to draft Chansey because no one likes to be that guy. And then, so from this point, I got 5 really good removers, and then I decided that it's time to draft. I went for Mega Pinsir. So I went with the Pinsir plan over the Darn plan. The reason for Pinsir I decided was because I haven't used Pinsir in a while, and I think people just don't really think about Pinsir as much as they really should in Gen 8. People know, of course, I lost Return of Frustration, which did hurt Pinsir and Altaria as well because they lost their consistent damage. They now have to run either things like Body Slam or hurt themselves with Double Edge, or in Pinter's case, they can run Thrash and lock itself in like kind of Outrage and probably die, but it's a thing it can do. But at the same time, it has like a 155 attack stat and Swords Dance and a 105 base speed. It is incredibly powerful and incredibly absurd damage output it can pull off. It is just completely nuts. And then it's got, of course, priority quick attack, which is not the strongest thing in the world, but it's also not weak either, so it can really cause damage to the rest of the teams. Overall, I'm really excited to use Pinsir. Like I said earlier, I think it and Reggie Lucky are the stars of the team, and it's going to be quite fun. From there, let's pick up some utility. Let's go through them real quick here. Lowland Persian, it's 115 speed, it's technically the second fastest mon on the team. Dark type, always nice to have, even though it's not the greatest one. Cheap, I think it's like 8 points in this. It's kind of maybe a bit high. It doesn't have great attacking stats naturally, but it technically gets that, but it's not great. It does have Fur Coat, which makes its physical bulk okay. Still not great bulk, so it's not like you want to switch it into like powerful things like Hoopa and whatnot. But it can still pull off the job and check certain specific mons, and be a nice little pivot with Parting Shot to get in your more dangerous mons and check some stuff. Chestnut, really good ground check for Reggie Lucky, switching on ground types to up spikes. Also, a Stone Edge resist or a Rock Slide resist, which is amazing for Pinsir as well. The ability to resist Edgequake when your team is built around Reggie Lucky and Mega Pinsir is incredibly valuable, and you also are not ultra passive as well. You can do things like Spikes and Leech Seed, and maybe more offensive things like SD and throw off things like that. I don't necessarily like usually the physical grass types because they do get burned by Scald from bulky waters. It's a bit awkward when your grass type can't really switch into waters, but I think we can handle it all right and go from there. And I kind of like Chestnut. I think it's actually the highest kill death that I have with any mon in Draft League. I have to check that. We went for Magmortar next. Special attacker. I have a bunch of physical attackers. Special breaker threat is nice. It's only 4 points, so it's not a big risk. Speed is kind of lacking. Bulk is also kind of lacking, but the high special attack stat, but kind of just random weird coverage moves it gets for being a Gen 1 mon, and then some random gimmicks like teleport are a thing too. So it can come a couple times, and it can be a threat overall in its own right, which is nice to have as well. And then we went for Kaparaja. I didn't have a steel top at this point. I wanted another rocker because at this point my only rockers were Lando, Pinsir, and the Chansey I knew I was going to draft. I didn't necessarily want to run rocks on them all the time. I can, but I don't really want to. So Copper, but I also didn't want a passive steel like um, what's it called, Registeel or something like Probopass because, again, I have a Chansey on the team. If you do Chansey and a passive steel, you're just going to get set up on by substitute and just have a terrible time. So Copper fits the role of steel type. It's got rocks. It's not passive, but it's also not the bulkiest, so it can check things, but it's not like a hard stop thing like some other ones can be. And last but not least, of course, is the Chansey I mentioned a couple times in this. I just think it pairs really well with certain things in the team. I have its fighting weakness covered extremely well. Its special absorption is incredible for things like Wheezing and Copper and Lando and Pinsir a little bit. Overall, it's going to be a really good mon to use. Wish is great. The slow teleport is incredible. It can do rocks. It can do T-Wave. It can do just soft and sit on people. It can do a lot of things. Chansey offense is alive and well, and we're going to run it very well. So overall, that's the team. Looking forward to it. Reggie Lucky and Pinter, like I said, are probably the stars of the team. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that can be picked apart on it. Its top end speed is really bad outside of Reggie Lucky. It's basically Reggie Lucky to Latias because Persian, again, is not necessarily the most threatening thing in the world. It will probably struggle to check certain attackers, especially some mixed attackers. Yeah, overall, really like the team. Could be really fun, and I look forward to the season. Good luck to everyone, unless they play me, in which case I hope I get all the luck and you don't. JK, love you all. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.